Oh man, so I was not a pile of shit. So that would be correct.
This is the Imperial Schools of Honor podcast. I'm Josh Folan,
And I'm Jay Baxtron.
and we are going to be bullshitting about the formative years of console gaming as we revisit the periodicals that covered it again. We are coloring outside the lines today, doing a mag ep on Atarian Video Game Magazine issue numero uno, which is what I speculate was a short-lived attempt by Atari to counter Nintendo's in-house mag after going through this. And I've decided to call this mag ep offshoot our random rag series. After in our group chat we were going through a number of IP infringing ideas as a group that danced around the Scholastic Book Fair, but yeah, random rag is simple enough, and we'll do these from time to time where we just pick a mag out of the ether and flip through it, even if it doesn't really line up with what we're trying to do on the main narrative, the main quest line of this podcast.
It's a multiverse.
It's a multiverse. Yes, it's multiple. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you can find the issue on archive.org if you want to look at the shit we're looking at. I'll drop the link in the show notes as I always do. Please rate and review the podcast if you could. It makes us feel great about ourselves. We'll read it on the pod if we're entertained by it, I guess, or it makes us feel good. And what are we jamming on now? What are you jamming on now, Jay? How much do you have to say before I talk about Subnautica for like 3 hours?
Well, I will yield the balance of my time after a few short comments. Just playing some Outriders. I finally got a full set of this set Lava Lich, so I'm finally like either leading my team in damage or second on the team in damage. I'm able to like do these expeditions, so it's really fun. But outside of that, man, I started playing yesterday this game called Knockout City. Have you heard of it? Have you seen the ads for it? Oh man. So it's like a
Game
they
Pass
call
deal.
it they call it a dodge brawl. So it's kind of like open world dodgeball. And it's like teams of 3. And I think you can even do like one-on-one special things if you want to do it. But like, so me and Zion played, with a random person and against 3 other random people. It was so much fun, man. Like by the end, we won like our last match 10-0 because you're just like you're playing dodgeball. It's the same deal where somebody throws a ball, you catch it, you get to like throw it back at them, and each person has like 2 hits before you get defeated.
What is the mechanic of it? Because the thing, obviously, dodgeball is an incredibly simplistic game. So like how do you what is the mechanic of the catching and the throwing with the controller? You know what I mean? Like how does it keep you engaged? Like what is the challenge?
So you're able to do like dashes, and you can even dash into people and kind of like shoulder slam them, kind of like you're playing football.
Full
and
contact,
so
full contact
dodgeball. It's like full contact, so you can do that. And so yeah, if someone throws a ball at you, you just hold like left trigger to catch the ball, and if you time it right, you get to catch it and just try to beam back at them. And obviously, like as a team, you're able to team up and like if you have a ball and someone throws another one at you, you can't catch it with one hand, so you're fucked right then.
You can't use the ball to.
No, you cannot do that.
That sucks, man. That's like a key. That's a key part of dodgeball strategy.
No. There's like special moves you can do where you can do like a double jump and like pull out a glider, like if you're playing Fortnite or something, like a glider or something like that. And like there's just like little things in there, kind of like your a la NBA Jam, that are kind of like power up special balls and things. It's like heat seeking. There's like a heat seeking football, which is amazing to just like beam somebody with. Like it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's like each round, there's like 3 rounds, best 2 out of 3. You got to get 10 points. And each time you like hit somebody twice, that's a point. So it sounds simplistic, but when you play it, it's kind of like if you were to take a game like Splatoon 2. Have you ever played that on Switch? Kind of like a Splatoon 2 / Fortnite type of thing, but just 3-on-3, and maybe throw in a little Overwatch. Highly recommend. Yeah, Yeah, it's nice to have a game that's not like actually shooting people, because I feel like all my games lately I've been like shooting people in the face and exploding them.
You do a lot of shooting people in your video game.
I mean that plus like Mortal Kombat 11. I mean, yeah, I'm still ripping people apart. It's a blast to play that. So yeah, this is a nice wholesome break.
Yeah.
Dodgeball.
Non-lethal combat.
Yes, definitely fun. It's far more fun than I expected. Like even like the concept, like talking about it, doesn't really do it justice. Because like Zion and I were both like, yeah, we're like, we'll try it. You know, it seems all right. Whatever, we'll check it out. It just hooks you. Like it's just far more fun. Like it's one of the things you got to try.
Jay,
you got to try.
You should try Subnautica.
I know nothing is getting past Subnautica. Subnautica. What is happening there?
Tell you about Subnautica. Bro, it's just so much Subnautica. It's dynamite, dude. It's like, Jab was claiming he heard negative shit, and I know Jab's a cunt in general, but like, I don't know how the hell you could be a fan of the first game and not be absolutely batshit pleased with Sub-Zero. I just don't. I cannot even, like, I don't even know where the foothold is to build an argument of anything negative to say about it. I would maybe concede that it's not quite as terrifying at all times. Like, at least I can't speak for everyone, but I'm not as, I don't spend every second of the game terrified of death and loss of resources and what's around the corner the way I was in the first, simply probably because of my familiarity with the systems of the game and just kind of the biology of the world. You're on the same planet, so I mean, there is, an entirely new array of wildlife, and the biomes are totally different, and you have no idea where anything is. Of course, it's completely new, everything for the most part. I mean, some overlap, but a lot of new stuff. And yeah, I guess it's just because I've kind of done this a little bit, so it's not as maybe, I've lost a little bit of that feeling, but I mean, it's everything about it. It's a perfect blend of new and old. They switch up a lot of, I mentioned there's changes, it's same but different. They have like the type of biome that would have a certain resource in the first game might be, that stuff gets switched up a little bit, but even within the confines of that, it's done with a believable underlying geological, scientific justification for it. You know what I mean? Like, if it's a different area, I can look at it and go, okay, yes, that's different, but I can see why, I understand why that could be the case, So it's not just arbitrary changes, like as with everything in this game, everything is like intelligent design, you know what I mean? And it's just so fucking good. And I would say even there's a bigger focus. You can see, at least I feel like I can see. This is, I haven't spoken to the developers, but I need to. I can see where they, I assume, gather data, like player feedback stuff over time. And I don't see this in every game, so I guess that's worth mentioning. This was in the first one too. When you start the game, a little bubble pops up and says, send us feedback if something fucks up, if something good, bad, whatever, please tell us, So they're like, just the fact that that's there to me suggests they are very user feedback driven, much more so than I think most developers don't give a, here's the game, fuck you, good luck with it, asshole. So I can see where they looked at or either interpreted things that players really enjoyed or liked about the first one, and then developed that aspect of the game further. There's the science stuff, like the scanning. You could scan a bunch of stuff in the first one, and not all of it was directly exploitable or had some sort of in-game direct benefit to you. So I'm not saying this is entirely new, but this time around there's just so much more of that. There's so much stuff that it's just exploration. You scan it, there's information about its biology, how it interacts with the environment, its role in the ecosystem, little jokes and stuff there within the confines of the game's humor that I absolutely love. So yeah, I mean, it's just it really plays up the scientific or the science aspect of the game, and that's really cool. And the base building is off the fucking wall. It was off the wall. It was off the wall in the first one. They, absolutely ran with it here, and there's all sorts of new little things you can do that allow you more flexibility and customization ability with that base building, because as much fun as it was in the first one, there were some limitations that were kind of frustrating, and they fixed a lot of that little dumb stuff. Like there's the rooms, like the main hub rooms, that the multi-purpose room where you can kind of turn it into different types, like I have one that's my lab, I have one that's my bedroom, I have one that's just like a fucking hallway hub thing where that's like a whatever. But you can, the first one you always had to have a roof, basically a metal roof, and this one you can install a glass see-through dome on them. So like my bedroom is at the top of this crazy ass fucking base. I told you guys I've moved out of my little kitty starter thing that just was like get my foothold and like get established in this world base, and I like deconstructed that and moved down into an area that like looks beautiful, and like has all these coral bridges fucking snaking through it and stuff. So my base is like built around those and through those, so I have my bedroom up at the top of this fucking compound and that, and you install a fucking dome at the top of it so I can look up at, see basically the surface of the water, which is always, the lighting is always changing and stuff up there. And then even on top of that, this is super nuanced, but there's a technology called grav traps, and this was in the first one. And it's essentially just it's a little mechanical ball that has some sort of like tractor beam technology that auto hooks on to fish. So the idea is it basically herds fish for you, which is particularly useful in the early going when you don't have a ton of mobility and you need to eat these things. Like as you develop in the game, you can kind of wean off having to catch fish and shit to survive for sustenance. But early in game, you don't have mobility, you can't stay underwater for long. If you want to try to like really amass a bunch of like the bladder fish that you can turn into water easily without too much additional resources, or the fish that are high in whatever fucking nutritional value that are good to eat, like it'll pull them together and you can just pretty much just snatch them much more easily. So I don't need to use that to catch fish anymore. So I took the grab trap that I was using early game and put it on top of the dome of my bedroom. So now there's like these energy, it looks like one of those Spencer Gifts balls that you put your hands on and the electric things touch your fingertips and stuff, it makes your hair stand up. One of those static electricity machines. That's what it looks like on top of my dome now. So like, and then like there's and fish are at the ends of the things now. So it's just like, just the level of customability and shit you can do is really fucking fun. And I'm making, I think I'm at like 26 or 27 hours in now, I believe it said when I looked last night. And, I'm getting pretty far into the story, I think. I mean, I don't, there's no way to know. It doesn't give you a percentage, thankfully. But I've gotten quite a bit I've hit a lot of story beats now, and the story in this one is completely different. And, I mean, there are like trace references that you'll pick up to the first game story world and storyline, but they're mostly just like what I would call corporate dystopia jokes, that are just kind of making fun of the company that was behind a big part of the story in the first one. This narrative is a completely different thing that doesn't really fuck around with that at all. But there are like these, it's a fine line between being referential in sequels and being overly so, and I think they're, as with everything, they're just walking the line perfectly of just like little occasional nods to it that are funny, but not like they're well they're well placed within the story world where it doesn't feel contrived to
Gotcha.
Like they're pushing that content on you, and it's just fucking amazing how well they balance so many things in this game. It's fucking incredible. So
Nice.
And I can't fight. It's just so. I don't even know how to. It's so good, dude. I just can't believe how good of a game it is. And like, I have no idea what percentage I'm at, but like, every time I take a step, I go through this whole emotional thing where like, I'm happy to be taking that step, but in turn sad because that's one step closer to not it being over. And, like it's so fucking good. It is the best video game. I can't. It's so fucking good, dude. It is so fucking good. I cannot believe that you haven't played it.
That is absolutely why I can never play this game, because my family would just be like, "What happened to you? Like, where did you go? Like, Daddy, we need this. Like, you got to spend time with us." I can't even. I can't do that. I can't do that.
Oh, dude,
I need games like this, like
the
these
dog
short games.
the dog sits and watches the screen, dude. It's so beautiful. Like they would just sit and watch and like ask you questions about it, dude. It's fucking fascinating because it's so beautiful, dude. And like I said, like everything is just completely neat. Like, so just dumbass random example. It's like I just got down into this fucking cave area, made some discoveries, yada yada yada. There was some new wildlife down there, and I have, you have fish tanks in your base. So whenever I find something that looks cool, I'll grab them and populate my fish tanks at the base with them. A couple of them. And I found these little glow grub things that crawl on the cave walls in this certain biome, and they glow in the dark, and like they're like neon green, and I pulled the one and took it back with me, and for some reason I couldn't put it in the tank. I don't know why. It just wouldn't let me do it. So for whatever reason, you can't keep those captive, and so I have to take it outside and just let it go. I don't destroy them, or I could have like throw threw it in my bioreactor and just like turned it into power or something. But even like there was another fish I caught on the same trip, and it was red and it looks pretty cool. The first red fish I found. So I like took it back, and the one tank was full, so I had to take a fish out, and I took some basic fish out to put that one in. And so even that, like I took it outside, catch and release. Like I always let them go if I'm not going to fucking keep them in the tank. Whatever. So I do that with the little glowworm, and like I come out the door of this one hatch of my base down near the bottom, and it's pretty close to a rock wall. And when I let it go, it immediately swam to the wall and started crawling on the wall. Like that is its native behavior. You know what I mean? It didn't just fucking float around. It didn't like just do some random thing. It has a programmed behavioral pattern that is logically in line with its purpose in the fucking ecosystem. And I don't know, like it just little shit. That attention to detail is fucking unreal, man. It's fucking unreal. It's so fucking good. All the fish have that, like some sort of, I think I remember telling you about the one fish in the first one that would take your stuff. There's actually, there's a fucking one called sea monkeys, and this one's even spoiler because you find these super early on. They're called sea monkeys in this one, which are new, and that's just fun that they have something called sea monkeys. But they're like, you can tell they have something to do cool in the story. They like early on, they come up, maybe that's spoiler, but they do something early on, and you're like, oh fuck, that's kind of annoying. And then later on, as you, I don't know, kind of align yourself more with this alien world, maybe a vague way to put it that's not spoilery, their behavior towards you changes because you now have a different role in this ecosystem. So the way they treat you is completely different. And again, just like that change in behavior that you can point at and go, I understand why that's happening. I don't get the whole picture yet, but I understand that I've made changes to where I'm at and what I mean here, and this thing is responding to me differently now. And like, I don't know, dude, man. Like there's no fucking video game like that. There's
next level.
Yeah, it's a whole, it's so fucking good, man. Oh, it's so fucking good. So nice. We can talk about that. We can talk about that for a few more hours here, but in the interest of me getting back to playing it, let's get into Atarian issue 1 here.
That was the title theme from Commando on the Atari 7800, a personal favorite of mine. Bringing us into this premiere issue, Josh. This is the premiere issue.
It is. They have a little banner there that absolutely cements it, so there's no debating. This is the May-June of 1989 issue of Atarian Video Game Magazine. The cover price is $195 US, $295 Canadian dollar. Canadian dollars. So you got half the price for a third of the content. Fair deal, Atari. Only a little bit of turn back the clock from where we're at in our actual timeline. So it shouldn't require us to put our minds too far removed from the context we're talking about Sega and Nintendo fronts on. And I thought that was good. You know, if we were dialing it back a few years, the way we think about this would have to be fair about it anyways, would require a little bit of effort, but shouldn't require that. So we have on the cover here a stock caped superhero illustration that kind of reminds me of Todorino from the Adventures of GamePro comic strip, very much so, kind of the exact same.
He does kind of similar vibes. Yeah, I could see that. Pretty
much the exact same human being. He has a blonde hair, so on and so forth. So he has a laser pistol hanging off his belt there, and the holster for it looks homemade.
Right? It's like a little move that they just sew it on, just chuck it.
Yeah. His grandma was like, or he's like, told his grandma that he needed this costume, and she's like, I got you, honey, and she's like, just fucking. So he's holding and he's got one arm up in the air, up and away kind of deal, and he's holding a bunch of Atari consoles in his left hand, a 2600, an Atari XE. And I'm guessing one of those is a 7800.
Yep.
I don't even know what it looks like. It occurred to me when I was looking at this, I was like, I don't exactly know what a 7800. Like, I couldn't pick it out of a lineup. You know what I mean?
It's the round one. It's funny because I was thinking, like, what does the XE look like? I couldn't pick that out of a lineup. Like, that's.
I tell you, I randomly, we talked about this a little bit already, but like, I didn't even know that's what it was until we started with these magazines, and it's come up a little bit, and I had to do research. But like, yeah, my cousin had the XE, and I got to dabble with it a little randomly growing up. So funny enough, I do have some exposure to that, but I didn't realize that's what I was playing at the time. It was just like some weird looking fucking system with the color. It's got crazy colors. It's the crazy colored one with the big buttons on it and stuff, So,
man, Josh, I gotta spin you a little yarn. Let me take you on a tale and tell you what. This is a very significant time in life for me. Like, in our canonical ISOH timeline, we're in the Nintendo era. It's Super Mario 3. I may not have had my Nintendo yet, but I was about to. I definitely got one. It was fully Nintendo time. But here where we are, technically almost a year prior, this is all I had. Was an Atari 7800. I played the 2600 with my mom, loved a bunch of 2600 games. But I got an Atari.
So did you have both of them like sitting there?
Yeah.
Side by side? Like how was the setup? The console setup?
No, once we got the 7800, I stopped playing the 2600 because it could play the 2600 cartridges.
Yeah.
So I was only I remember getting a 7800 for like my birthday or something, and not a Nintendo because that's just not what we could afford. So I had some Atari 7800 games.
I can't wait to see how excited you are about that letter. I can't wait to see how excited about that letter in there. That's this exact story. But
I'm telling you, this is significant. I saw this. I had this freaking issue because I remember fanboying and being like, "Yeah, like Atari is good. Like that's right." Trying to feel good myself, feel good about it. Yeah, I got this. I don't know if I got it like at a Toys R Us or where I found it, but I definitely had this, and it got me more hyped about feeling good. I had an Atari. For sure. We'll get into it.
Worked. Yeah. So that was their goal in creating this for sure. So it worked. You can't knock that it didn't work.
I mean, there was no. I mean, this is. We'll get into it. This does not mean I was not still wanting an NES. That is. Let's be straight.
Right. Okay, yeah. So I'd say with the cover here, like the way he's holding these things, cannot be in line with Atari's recommended safe handling protocol for their products. Like it's like he's very precariously balanced on his forearm, and he's clearly in flight at a high speed. Like it just cannot be how they want their their hardware being handled. It's not would not every game you get or the system even will have those like on all these games will have in the manual they'll have that page that's like things not to do with your electronics. Like you should definitely put don't fly around with them balanced on your forearm.
For sure. It's like he's like a bring you your weight. He's like your waitress right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It looks like like me balancing 14 plates on my arm at fucking Champs Americana at what the fuck was that? What's that name of it? Lincoln Plaza? What the hell was the name of that area by campus? Lincoln something, was it?
No, it was the man. I forgot.
Yeah,
it's been so long, but yes,
the theater, the Johnny Rockets, the Bed Bath and Beyond.
Polaris, but not Polaris.
Oh yeah, Polaris was a mall. No, this was the thing that was right there by campus, over by the police station. In any event, I don't think we're going to have an Ohio geography lesson in this issue, so let's try to avoid exposing our fucking listeners to Ohio geography. Anyways, so a speech bubble of his reads, "Follow me, Atarians. Our adventure has just begun." And some of the bullet points, or bullet point action rather, on here, we have in-depth reviews on Impossible Mission, Summer Games, Tower Toppler, Crime Busters, Secret Quest, Double Dunk, Fight Night, Karateka. Yeah. So just seeing this, I already knew I was in for a treat by getting this because I've never heard of a single one of these games. So I knew I was
lies. Wait a minute. Come on now. You've heard of Commando. You've never heard of Commando.
That's not. No, I'm just talking about this first list. That's the funny thing. So I had that thought about this first list on the in-depth reviews, right?
And okay, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we get to the first looks list next here, and it's Commando, Rampage, Double Dragon, Akari War, Xenophobe, Roadrunner, Pete Rose Baseball. And I'd oddly heard of all of these except for Pete Rose, because they're all ports of big arcade games and stuff. So I think they are all ports of big arcade. Roadrunner was an original title. That's known as like one of the last 2,600 first party games, I believe.
So, they're all like games that are on the NES, that you've likely played or heard of theirs.
Right, exactly. Right. See, I know it's just weird to me that the one list was all games I'd never heard of, and the other one was all games I was like viscerally familiar with. It was weird to me to have that variance between the two. And the funny that I get, the Pete Rose Baseball, like I saw that and I was like, given what Pete Rose is most known for, despite a stellar Hall of Fame career, the gambling scandal, I just thought it was so perfect that he had an Atari game. So I started thinking though, I was like, it's already 89. Like, when the fuck was that scandal? So I looked it up.
It was after. It had to be after.
Dude, only by So
because they won the series in '90. The Reds did.
With him? I don't think so. Not with him.
Not with him playing, maybe.
So this is mid '89. This issue comes out. The MLB verdict of his ban came down in August of '89, and the allegations ramped up for it in what I was able to find early '89. So it is
starting to happen.
Yeah, it is fucking hysterical to me that he has a licensed title coming out and being marketed in May. It is just so Atari.
That means they probably had it ready to go.
We already paid the money. We already paid the money to Pete. There's zero chance we're fucking stopping this train. It's just not happening. We are already hemorrhaging money.
I'm just eating our lunch right now. Like, what's happening? Like, we gotta go.
Yeah. So, I just thought that was fucking great. And then also mentioned is an interview with the man, the myth, the legend, the Atari legend, Nolan Bushnell, and a Name Me contest on page 15. So those are our teasers for the mag, or the issue. And you get into the thing, and the first thing on the inside of this bad boy is some hardcore Atari propaganda, and it's actually the artwork that Jay has behind him right now. So it's labeled The Atari Advantage, and it's trying to get you to buy insane amounts of Atari shit in exchange for paltry prizes in comparison to the spending requested. So what they're pitching here at the bottom in the copy is, If you buy Atari game cartridges, you are eligible to win valuable prizes. If you collect 5 games, you get a free Atari t-shirt. If you collect 10 games, you get a free Atari game cartridge. And probably important note about this, that it is an unnamed cartridge and not referenced as any Atari game card. So they are probably determining what that cartridge is. And then collect 25 games, get an Atari 7800 game system for only $25, or get an Atari XE system or disk drive for only $50. So if you lowball Atari MSRP and say these games would be $30 a pop, that's $750 that you have to spend to get a $25 7800. And yeah, the artwork rather is, it's actually, it's like, it looks cool. Like, I'd like it. I would like this. I think it's, it even calls it, I think this is probably a poster that they're referencing at the bottom here. I like it, but with the exception of the Mario Brothers characters, the Donkey Kong included, it's all just like the most basic looking stuff you could imagine to be in a video game. Like sorcerer, IndyCar, football player, baseball player, hockey player, bear. It's like, just guy. It's just like, I don't know. Again, it's just also just so Atari, man.
As funny as that is, I think they're actual characters. So I was thinking that's Centipede.
I had no doubt that a game that's sent by everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I saw that was the one chick in my armor. That's why you didn't hear me say Centipede, because that is the one. That is the one direct correlation that you would make. And Centipede's actually a
Rose. That's right. Red baseball player. I'm gonna say that's a Reds guy.
Probably. Yeah. And I mean, this castle here. I'm sure there's a game. I'm sure there's a game with this fucking castle and the Robin Hood looking dude. What is that fucking that shit on the right, the Egyptian shit. It's that flying game, the one that we.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. I don't even know the name of it. It's in here.
we saw on GamePro. I want to say it was GamePro 1. We talked about that. I have no doubt that they actually have correlation to their game library. It's just like, if you were not viscerally aware of and knowledgeable about their game library, and you were just a person looking at this poster, you would go, these are just random things.
That's exactly the differential. I was an Atari dude. That's all I had. So to me, I'm like, yeah, those are those games. And you're like, I didn't have that. What are these random things?
Well, what the fuck is that Santa Claus bear, Jay?
I have no idea. I don't know what that is. I don't know. Is that in Cubert? Like, I feel like it's one of those random games that I just.
That's not Cubert. There's not. Cubert's way more creative looking, all their characters, than that. Cubert's fucking a great game and a very.
This is clearly a game I skipped, whatever it is.
Yeah. So yeah, the dopest part of this is probably the line at the bottom that all you have to do is see your Atari reseller for details about this contest, and you can get your free 17x21 collector poster today. So like I said, I think it's probably, chances are it's this poster. So fucking yeah, man. And I think it's very important also to point out that I like not point it out, but to highlight. I like their verbiage here. Their tactful verbiage of collect 5 games, collect 10 games, collect 25 games. Not go out and buy our shit. Not buy 5 games. You have to. You're collecting. Like, this is we're borderline doing you a favor to make these available to you to add to your collection.
It's like a double-edged sword though. Like, I see that and I totally get that. But when I also look at this poster, like, looking at the Marios makes me sad, because like, it's clear that this is not Super Mario Brothers you get on Nintendo. This is the whack version of Mario.
Well, like, it was the whack version back. Well, it was the whack version.
It was.
By 89, it was the whack version. But when
we were about to be Mario 3 times, so we were already in Mario 2. Like, yeah, by this point, this is the plain boring one. Nintendo has the cool.
For sure.
And I was very aware of that distinction. So seeing that makes me sad and viscerally. Like, that reaction still happens. I'm like, oh, no, that one.
We've never talked about it like this because we've never had this like deep of an Atari conversation. But I was also relatively late, not quite as late as you with the hitting my NES tier of my life. Like, I want to say that was probably 89-ish. I think maybe Christmas 89 I got it. And I never made the jump to 7800. I had a 2600 until then. So until I mean, I guess, I was thinking it would be a little later, but I guess about when this was coming out, which makes it all the more funny that there's so many games in here that I have never heard of for Atari. And I had probably, I don't even know, fucking 40 something, 50 Atari 2600 games, because like I had a bunch, like my grandparents had an old school Sixer, the wood panel one. That was, I think, my mom's when she was younger. So they had a bunch of games. So when I would go down there and visit. I got into it super young. I liked them. I liked playing those games. So I imagine we ended up just bringing those. So there was already a library. I kind of osmosed, fucking absorbed, right from the jump. And then, they bought me, my parents bought me some games. And then my uncle had a bunch as well he gave me from when he was young too. So I like absorbed two, complete children's libraries into mine. And so I had a ton of fucking games. And I still like never heard of, all these, so many of these games were not ones that I'd even heard of, let alone own. So crazy. But anyway, my point is just that like I also spent a great deal of time, longer than I wanted, in the Atari era, and not even the updated Atari era. I was playing 2600 games up until then. So I can relate. So their table of contents comes next, and it's certainly no Nintendo Power table of contents. It's mostly just text, save for a very, very poor miniature rendition of the cover art superhero up at the top there next to Nolan's interview. And there is also there's a small black and white medieval court squire illustration. That you know what it reminds me of, dude? It reminds me of the art style in the very small Playboy magazine comics that are in the articles part of the magazine that everyone prefers over the pictorials in Playboy. It reminds me of that art style, like just obviously black and white, but just, I don't know, something just like a penciling kind of, there's not
it's so random. Like it's like low effort. It seems like what?
And that's how they have those for the headings on all the, like, I kind of like the font, I guess. The font is kind of cool. It's the same font that's on the cover for all the section headings. But yeah, those little illustrations are super, super Bush League and budget.
But hey, he's announcing that it's the premiere issue again, so it's official. It's an official pronouncement from the Renaissance man.
No doubt. And there is a welcome letter from the publishing team, and it's not signed by anyone particular, but I thought I should probably read it to set the table for this magazine. So here we go. Welcome. This is the premiere issue of Atarian, the new bi-monthly magazine for members of the Atarian Video Game Club and Atari Power players like you, Jay. Atarian is written by top experts who want to share their expertise with you. In the review section, you'll find in-depth reviews of 10 great new games like Tower Toppler, while the preview section gives you the inside scoop about 8 great new titles coming out soon. In playing strategy, the pros tell you how to get top scores on your favorite games, while Tips and Tricks is packed with hot playing tips from other readers. If you're not an Atarian Video Game Club member, use the form in this issue and go for it. Did you sign up? So you said you got this from a store. So did you get a subscription or no?
No, definitely not. No, there's no ongoing monthly financial obligations happening at this time in my life.
Financial obligations a lot. Sign up for anything in the future. We're playing it by ear on the Atarian magazine front.
Pretty sure I was saving money at this point, like in the summertime, to try to get a Nintendo. Like working every angle.
Yeah, that's great. So Mailbag is first up, and they are coming out swinging here. The first letter touts the headline: Atari beats Nintendo. Oh, really? Tell me more.
This whole mailbag, but go ahead. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So this is this is basically what you described. Maybe you should fucking get into this one. Derek Jacobs of Fort Worth, Texas here tells us that he asked for a Nintendo at Christmas, but his parents got him an Atari 7800 instead. So he's like describing so he goes on to say he's thrilled and amazed by how much better Atari games are than Nintendo ones, and that the Atari controllers are much easier to use than the tiny Nintendo ones. So, to me, a few things are clear here. One, Derek's parents never loved him. That's why they got him an Atari instead of what he asked for. And poor Derek here has fabricated an entire false reality where he's not suicidal about his gaming options, and he actually has friends that come over to his house to play his Atari. Like he's like, it's all. There's just no way. It's just all bullshit. It's just like, and like it's so goofy. Like sometimes we read these letters, especially these seemingly propaganda fueled ones, where you're like, oh, the editorial team wrote that letter. Like, no, the kid wrote this for sure. It's got a kid written
for sure.
yeah.
I'm telling you, I get it. Like I've said it before. I got a 7800 when I wish I would have had a Nintendo. So like I understand even reading this magazine at the time and being like, yeah, I have an Atari. Like it's cool. Like there's cool things about it. Like, but even
had the emotional base, and you read this letter as a kid. That's incredible to me.
But even then, I still knew it's not better than Nintendo, though, bro. Come on, like you just took it a little too far. Like maybe you have some friends who come over to play your Atari because they have nothing and you have an Atari. Yeah, I'd go over to your house too. Yeah. But if it's the choice,
depends on what you call they're busy.
Not with the Nintendo calls and Derek calls, I'm going to Johnny's house. Like, I'm sorry, that's just what's happening.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's fucking.
The fanboyishness happens. Like, I get it, but that's just not you. Come on, dude.
So yeah, that was good, and I also enjoy the last one from Cody Myers of Kaufman, Texas, where he's telling Atari they could do a little better on the graphics with the 2600 games, and that he's designed a game of his own that they should probably take a look at. So, and like, that's whatever. It's a kid. It's fun. Who cares? Atari goes on actually gets defensive. Like they're like legitimately defensive in response, pointing out that the graphics of Solaris and Super Football in the 2600 are spectacular. And I mean, Solaris is a game on the 2600 I have, and it was like a late one that came out in like 86, I want to say. So it is actually very good and looks great by Atari standards. So, I mean, I support this that Solaris is great for the hardware, but spectacular is a stretch for one. And two, how are you legitimately getting defensive, about it? I don't know. The fact that they felt the need to fucking correct him is just crazy to me.
It's funny to me, the whole mailbag. It's like you start out with Atari beats Nintendo. Oh, the next one is great arcade conversion. Then, Atari's out of stock. Like, oh my gosh. And then, it's like this.
Trying to create news hyperbole. The public can't fucking get these things fast enough. And it's funny because that's what the comic later on is very in that vein too. Like the comic, the story of the comic is kind of exactly that. That's funny. I didn't make that connection either. That's hilarious.
I mean, they had a clear purpose with this whole magazine. I mean, we'll see the theme throughout,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. So the top 30 comes next, but it's divided up across the three systems. So 2600, the 7800, and the XE as top 10s. So, it didn't click to me until these lists, but it signaled to me that they must not even be talking about the 5200 anymore. Like it's not even a fucking thing to Atari, you know what I mean? And it's released in 82, discontinued in 84, so this is not illogical at all that they made this choice. But the 2600 was released in 77, and it's of course because people still magically were buying that thing that they are supporting it like they are. Mm-hmm. It's just, to me, it's, I don't know, why. I don't know if you support the one, why not? I don't know. I guess because it's discontinued. So yeah, there's no profit possibility with it. So why dedicate editorial resource to it is the explanation. But it's just weird to me that that the older one is still around. 5200 is not talked about here.
That must have been. I definitely didn't look into it, but yeah, I do remember seeing a 5200 once, and that was pretty much it. Like somebody had one once, but it was almost like the 2600 was their most widely used console that everybody had. Something about the 5200 sucked, and the 7800 was an actual upgrade, to where it was better than the 2600. Whereas 52
controllers, I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, are dumpster fires. they have that joystick thing that the 7800 I believe also has, but they just die. They don't like stay. They don't stay centered. They die. They like die and just I guess they're pretty terrible. But yeah, I mean, I remember it because I had like one of my favorite things about my Atari 2600 memories are I had a lot of the Atari did a lot of the catalog deals that came with games and stuff. So they'd have like these full like illustrated cool catalog things. Maybe I can think of two of them offhand, and I think they're pretty easy to find. So maybe I'll dump those into the show notes if I can remember to do so, because they're pretty cool to look at. There was a green one I remember that had a bunch of their characters all over the cover, and some of those things would have both 2600 and 5200 products in them. So like I remember seeing the 5200 stuff as a kid and being aware of it, but yeah, I knew no one. I didn't know anyone with a 2600 either, I don't think. But I definitely knew no one with a 5200. So I never even got a chance to really try it and see if it was something that I would have wanted. You know what I mean?
It's just weird to me because I feel like I never knew anything about the XE, but like the XE is apparently like an 8-bit version. Like they're like you look at it, it looks like they were trying to be Nintendo.
It's one of their home computers, dude. Like, I mean, I got a bit later about it, but I mean, it's basically just a rebranding. Because Atari was pretty successful with their 8-bit line of home computers in general, and I mean, if you look, we'll get into kind of the product.
Oh yeah.
The packaging of the XE and how it comes with a keyboard. It comes with a fucking you can get a disk drive for it. It's a fucking computer. It's just they just made it look like a console as a rebranding, and to sell it to people, I guess, who didn't think they could afford or had a utility for an actual computer. You know what I mean? Trying to basically rebrand it as a gaming machine because, I mean, a lot of the people who play the 8-bit computers were into gaming too, but the console community was not as inclined towards home computing at the time, so
makes sense.
That's my perception. So this 2600 list isn't my jam at all. But yeah,
what are they thinking, man?
Right? Yeah, it makes a lot of sense given I'm long into the. Well, yeah, that's it, man. I hadn't really thought about it. I was thinking as I was looking at it, like, I mean, I was already in the NES. I mean, I was barely in the NES though. So, and maybe actually by mid '89, like I said, I guess maybe even not if I am right about Christmas, which I'm not entirely positive about. Maybe I got it for even my birthday would have been August. Like it had to be later in the year in '89 that I got it. So. Yeah, it's weird to me that these games. I mean, Miss Pac-Man and fucking Mario Brothers are like easily. Pac-Man Junior's there too.
Pac-Man Junior is awesome. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the Donkey Kong Junior too. So there's a lot of brand names in there, but I mean Atari 2600 has so many good games that are
right. Like, why is Pole Position 1? Like, there's no way to me. Like, Pole Position 2 on the 7800 was a pack-in and it was a decent game. There's no way you're going to tell me the original Pole Position is the number one 2600 game. Like, where is Missile Command?
Is well regarded. Yeah, it's funny. I actually did. So I'd never played it. I had never played that game, and that Atari 2600 game by game podcast that I'll do audio submissions on Ferg's podcast every now and again. They did an episode on Pole Position, and it got me to download it and play it for the first time, and it is pretty good for an Atari 2600 game. It's not nearly as fun. Like my whole shtick on the thing I sent Ferg was that Night Driver was way more fun. Like even though it looks way more basic, it's just so much more fun.
It's so fun.
Yeah, with the paddles
and shit. Paddle. Yeah.
God, just so much fun. And the perspective, the way they executed that game to make it all about the mechanic, that they kept the graphics and the gameplay so simple that with those, essentially just lines coming at you from the perspective of the road, like just really cool, well done thing, and like tough to avoid those oncoming cars. It's really, really fun. I mean, we used to, like, I remember we would, me and like the handful of kids that I would come over, mostly just friends of my parents that would come over and play Atari with me. Like, I remember just like turning the lights out and we would just intentionally wreck over and over and over again. Because when you wreck in that game, it does the flash.
The color flash, yeah.
we called it like drunk driving or something, which I can't believe we were joking about that at age fucking 8 or something. But like, we just we just wreck back and forth into shit constantly until the timer ran out. Just because even that was fun. It was such a cool and well executed game. So yeah, that was my whole spiel. But so that was my first exposure to it. So it is a good game. And based on listening to that episode was kind of where I was getting at here. Listening to that episode, pole position is pretty well regarded. It seems like in the 2600 fan community, But yeah, number 1, man, get the fuck out of here.
To me, if your list doesn't include Missile Command or Space Invaders, like I can't even talk to you. Like in the 2600 era.
And that makes you think, they're trying to push product here more so than actually, what's the data on this? That's
what I was wondering. Where did you get this from? Is this rated from just like retail sales, lifetime? Right. Like, what is this? I don't understand.
Yeah, not explained at all.
But like the 7800 list is like better.
Nintendo's. Is it? That was one of my biggest. I said it's not as transparently described as the way the Nintendo list was. How it has the 3 different lists: the dealers, the players, and the pros kind of thing. And I didn't understand as a kid, but we worked out how we think it works now. So yeah, I mean that's they do a better job of explaining. So, but yeah, that was going to be one of my questions. Absolutely, was whether or not you jived with this 7800 list, because I can't speak to it.
So I got some issues with the 7800 list. First of all, why is Mario Brothers number 1? Like at this point, again, we're in Mario 2. We're seeing like the distant hype about Mario 3. At least I was. If you're reading the trade, you can see that there's like this game.
I love that you have the we there is like you and this group of children that were bonded together by your misfortune.
Well, I mean, think about it. Like, you've seen ads for Mario Brothers. Like, whenever I went over my cousin's house, they had a Nintendo already. I played Mario Brothers. I played Mario 2. To play like this one screen 2D version of Mario, and you're gonna tell me that's the number 1 7800 game? That means you're inferior. Like, why are you selling me that?
You can even go further. It's a mini game.
Yes, it's a mini game
within Mario 3. Yeah.
Thank you. Come on now. Like, other than that, I mean, Miss Pac-Man is a great freaking game. Choplifter, definitely a top 10 game. I jive with that. Tower Toppler, stupid. Karate Ka, it was fun, but freaking hard. Centipede, yeah, of course. So, like, Donkey Kong Jr. So I get some of these. Obviously, I would throw in some different games. Like, to me, still Double Dragon for the 7800. It was a solid game. Like, graphically, later stage is really cool. But, yeah, generally, it's an all right list. List. It's okay.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, again, calling back to just kind of my familiarity with where we're at here with the Atari shit. I've never heard of these super sport line games. Like, they have baseball and football on the list here, and it's Super Football is mentioned twice. It's part of that spectacular graphics letter from fucking the mailbag. So I was like, what? What are these? Like I assumed honestly that the reason I didn't know what the fuck it was or never heard of it was because it was soccer football. Like, how could there be a dope football game, American football game, that I was not aware of? And
right.
Because like there were I did have, so there was, I don't know if you recall them or not, but there was a Silver Label Real Sports line of Atari 2600 games. They all had silver labels. They were like they had this Real Sports logo, so they were all branded together. And I had the soccer one, and the soccer game was actually dope, but it was called football. So like that was my logic there. And then they also have the original line of games too, just basketball and football, that were like the early system releases, the black label Atari 2600 games, So like, and there and of that silver label one, there was an American football version too, but it was fucking terrible. And then that original black label Atari football, where you just had the 3 players that moved together, was also terrible, even though I played the shit out of it for some reason or another. I don't know, clearly not with the intent to win, but something about it intrigued me, and I remember putting it in and playing it way more than I probably should have. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, I this is one I was like, I gotta know more, So I downloaded it, fired it up, and fiddled with it, and I mean,
the 2600 one you're talking
about.
Right?
Yeah, Super Football for the 2600. Yeah,
that one sucked. I did not like that one. Anyway,
So
tell me your
you played it for this, or you remember it?
I remember it. Yeah, I didn't play it for this because I remember there's a different one that I played for 7800 that was better, but like the 2600 one I did not like. But
Yeah,
you tell me what you thought.
I mean, it infinitely better than the other two for sure. Like it was, it kind of like first of all had a slightly angled, almost behind the QB view, like a modern Madden game, which
like
was kind of revolutionary compared to the other ones that are available. And when there was actually a kickoff, which I mean, there's a kickoff, I guess, in the other one too. But this actually kind of looked like a kickoff. And like when it kicked the ball off, because of that angle of the camera, if that's what you want to call it, the ball kind of did this curvature thing that was way more real physics than I would have expected out of an Atari game, I guess, So like there were little things that I noticed that were certainly above and beyond and better than the other football games on Atari 2600 that I played.
Yeah.
But I like...
It's the 5-on-5 one though, right? This is the 5-on-5.
Yeah, there were more players. I don't know if it was 5-on-5. There were definitely more than 3. So yeah, there were more players, and like, it was the kind of thing, it was the kind of play experience where I was like, I need to read the manual to have any idea what's happening here. Like, there was clearly some sort of like pre-snap play selection thing going on that did not have a visual component to it. That was just numbers in the top. So like, I think you need the book to know what play you're calling, and in turn have any clue how to execute it properly. I wasn't able to throw the ball, which I'm pretty confident is possible in the game. So yeah, I clearly did not have the knowledge necessary to play it right, and it was not anywhere near engaging enough to do that level of fucking research to play it. But it was certainly better than the others, and I just thought it interesting that because I played the other shittier one anyways. Like I probably would have played the fuck out of this if I'd have had it at the time, because it was so much further advanced than the other ones, and I played those too. So
yeah,
thought that was interesting. I also checked out Dark Chambers in the list here. It was number 7. It's kind of sounded up my RPG alley, and it is basically a Gauntlet knockoff that I probably wasn't too bad by 2600 standards, I would say. So
it's funny because I wrote down, Josh, this seems like your game.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it, but I kind of feel like maybe doing research about Gauntlet at some time for the NES timeline, this is the game that I might have seen the name of this game before. Because there is some sort of like super early predecessor that is said to, like, I'm calling this a Gauntlet knockoff, but is said to actually be what informed Gauntlet. It's just we know Gauntlet better, so everyone thinks otherwise, So I think this might be that game, but I'm not entirely sure. So yeah, that was it. And I clearly can't fucking kind of speak to the XE fucking list, so whatever. But coming out of that, we get 1.25 pages of previews, and many of these are ports of big titles. This is the list we talked about earlier that I was pretty familiar with. So we have Commando in here. We have Rampage, Ikari Warriors, Dragon Warrior, or Double Dragon, not Dragon Warrior, not quite. Definitely not Dragon Warrior. Xenophobe and Roadrunner, and many of these are on multiple systems. So you have like 2600, like 2600, 7800 pairings, or 1700 and XE pairings. Oddly, I don't see any 2600 and XE pairings, and I just thought that interesting too.
Dude,
occasionally get all 3, I guess. Commando has all 3.
Dude, this is like the hype for me. Like I said, like these are the best Atari games I can remember because they're on the 7800. So like Commando for me, it was a game I played the shit out of that game. Such a good game. Clearly, you heard the music for it earlier. Like it was just so much fun. Like Rampage, we know Rampage. Like it's fun on every system. It's just lesser quality graphics on the 7800.
So you played the Rampage on 7800? Did you have it?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I would love to see it, and I guess play it too, because we played it on the Sega. Jab and I, right before you jumped on this, Jab and I played it on the Master System. I had the NES one. I played the fuck out of it in the arcades whenever I saw it. I still do to this day. So like I played a bunch of different versions of it, and I know it's been platformed or ported to everything. And I'm just so curious how bad or good they line up as, because I was actually playing with this. I've said it before, I think since, and obviously in the episode, like the Master System one was way better than the NES one. So I'm curious whether the 7800 one was better than the NES one or not.
Oh man, I think you already know the answer to that, Josh.
Really? Is it? Well, I don't assume. You never know, man.
Well, I put it like this: feast your eyes on the Double Dragon picture in the mag. That is not what it looks like on the 2600 or the 7800. That is
not a 7800 screenshot. You're saying?
No, sir, it is not. I played the 7800 version because it was such like I looked at this and I was like, I remember loving Double Dragon on the 7800 and thinking graphically, especially in the later stages, the graphics were so well done. And so I looked at this and I was like, wow, those are some great graphics. They look a little too great. Yeah. So I pulled it up and I was like, wait, did I download the right? Like, is this once I saw your 2600 version, which I didn't even know existed. Yeah, I was like, that looks super basic. So that's not the one I played. But this is not it either, man. The 7800 is like
that's fucking hilarious that they're using arcade screenshots. I mean, the picture's dark as fuck, so it's not the easiest to tell for Rampage there. But like, it looks kind of in line with the NES version, to my memory. But yeah, it's definitely not the arcade one. The arcade one looks much better than that. So I know they're not using the arcade screenshot there. But if they, it's insane to even suggest, but it's fucking Atari. You never know. If they're using NES screenshots to deceive you on the quality of their games, that is so crazy.
That is either not the 7800 version, or it's somehow so dark
and just so pixelated that you can't get
around. Then it's like, you know what I mean?
Which I suppose is not entirely out of the question, but. That's the best interpretation option we have for Atari's sake. For Atari's sake, I mean that their pictures are just so shitty that's what the issue is.
Yeah, I mean, I actually pulled up both because I wanted to see. I'm like, okay, I remember again being a kid playing this game because it's Double Dragon. I love Double Dragon. We played on the stupid little handhelds, the LJN things. It's still not the NES or arcade, but look, it's still freaking Double Dragon. So I pulled it up on Nintendo Switch Online to see like what is the comparison between the NES and the 7800. It is, as a kid, I'm sorry, we're harkening back to Derek again. I'm gonna keep talking about this dude in the beginning. He was just deceiving himself. It's like
yeah, he's absolutely out of his mind. Yeah,
there's a stark difference between those guys. It has some good music. It's still Double Dragon. Like if that's all you got. Compared to other NES game or Atari games, it's a great game.
Kids are so removed from reality though, dude. It probably took so little effort to convince himself of this. Like I can remember, having belief systems as a child that it just they just don't lie. It's a kid can convince himself of anything. So like it's 1000% see it as a fucking subconscious defense mechanism. Developing
still, at the same time though, it was still some of the best 7800 games I played, the best Atari games that there's possible to play. So like I said, Commando's still a freaking great game. For what I had, like give me that type of game. Hell yeah, I'm still dropping bombs on walls and like I'm still a commando. This is still fun.
Yeah, I've heard. Well, yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Double Dragon thing. Like, yeah, I couldn't believe that it was on the 2600. It blew my fucking mind. Like, just knowing what the game is and the required, not that it's like the most complex game, but knowing what the Atari 2600 is capable of, and trying to think of how the fuck they could get that to work on. Just the fact that you only have one button. How do you only have one button? How's it possible? Like are you only kicking? Or are you only punching? I don't see any other solution. Which is how the fuck you play Double Dragon with only one of those two things. Whatever. So yeah,
it's like double tap it and it kicks or something. I don't know.
That's how. Well, I wasn't able to figure it out. It's Activision. So I was like, oh my god, like fucking. Yeah, that's easily the best company that made games for Atari 2600. So maybe I have lived to this day somehow not knowing about some incredible Atari 2600 Double Dragon port, and like I don't know, man. It's fucking hysterical. Like I posted the screen cap like you mentioned, fucking on the Facia page, and it's just. I don't even know what to say about how unplayable it was. I wasn't like I would. I don't think like I would. Clearly there's just the one button, so I'm hitting the button, and like I don't know. Maybe no, because I was using the controller for other games. It worked fine. Like I could not attack. And what else would the button do? I don't know. Like jumping. I was not. There's no jumping. And yeah, I mean, I literally just first screen, just get the two enemies just completely dusting my ass off over and over and over and over again. Game over. As you can see in the play video that I posted, like just hilarious, like absolutely fucking hilarious. It did have the only saving grace for it is it had the opening music ditty for it was the right one and pretty fucking hot. And yeah, but that honestly is the only thing about it that made it worth hitting the power switch. Like the only thing I'm thinking is maybe because Atari 2600 would do this shit, and it's crazy that they saw this as a solution for in-game input. But sometimes in games you would have to hit one of those switches. Like there's a game select switch. There's 6. The Atari has a bunch of on-console switches. And like it was a different time. Your cord was not that long, and you had a cord, so you would, as a kid, have to sit usually on the floor next to your Atari, so it's not the same as having this crazy ass idea today for a modern gamer unable to visualize what a gaming experience might have looked like in 1989. But like even that taken into consideration, it's crazy for it to be a real-time fighting game input. You know what I mean? There's just no way that's like Ghostbusters. Actually, the 2600 Ghostbusters requires you to do it. So when you go to the store.
Oh my gosh.
In the beginning of Ghostbusters, and you buy the different shit, to leave the store, you use the button on the controller to buy things, of course. So when you leave the store, you got to hit that game difficulty switch or something, and that is what takes you out of the store and into the video game. So but that's just like one thing at the beginning, and it's you're not under fire, under duress when you have to do that input. So that's okay, but there's just no way that that's part of this game. It can't be. So no. Yeah, I mean, I just don't fucking know how you play it. I can't. It was so fucking bad, and I don't even. It's not the kind of thing. Tell me to read an instruction book. Like, no, fuck you. It's Double Dragon. I should be able to pick it up and play. Like, I do not need to fucking read literature to play Double Dragon.
Man, that is nuts. I never even thought about this because even the Atari controller that I bought is like a Hyperkin, and it has a button on either side. So there are 2 buttons on it. Technically, it has 4. Like I could map, you know what I mean? Like, so I didn't even dawn on me that the original 2600 controller only has the 1 button. Like that's freaking crazy to me.
How do you play Double Dragon? Yeah.
Oh man, that's freaking nuts.
So the second page of this preview section shares real estate with a feature on the sports stars of the time that are endorsing Atari wares. And here we have Doug Williams, who was a QB for the Redskins for a few years in the late 80s and won Super Bowl MVP in Super Bowl 22, and this is the verbiage they used in the magazine here, and I like this a lot, where they demolished the Denver Broncos 42-10. So that's pretty hot. Nice. And then Spud Webb, who is or was, I guess he still is a human being, I don't think he's passed away, is a 5'7", 135-pound guard for the Atlanta Hawks that won the 1986 dunk contest. And being 5'7" and winning the dunk contest, goes without saying, garnered him some serious popularity around this time, despite being a pretty marginal player. I mean, would you agree that he was a pretty marginal overall player?
You only knew about him because of the dunk contest. It was like, oh my gosh, that dude won the dunk contest.
Yeah, that short ass dude. Yeah, no, yeah, I remember. I mean, again, I was in like 3rd, 4th grade. I remember. Fucking yeah, Spud Webb was like a thing, man. Like we talked. It's like the regard for him, and I again, I think I've talked about it before. When we talked about Mark West, the whole thing about Mark West and that kid Jessa Williams, who was like easily the best athlete in my class, and kind of was just like I don't know, he was like an omnipotent figure as far as sports opinions go too, for whatever reason, because he was all athletically most inclined too, and like I just something about him I remember with fucking him and Spud Webb was like a fucking thing, and like you could not say some bad shit about Spud Webb or he was gonna fucking roast your ass. Okay, I just remember it being a huge thing. So in Spud Webb's blurb here in the magazine, and this was pretty interesting to me. They point out women consider the handsome, soft-spoken, and unassuming slam dunk star Spud Webb one of the most eligible bachelors in the USA. And I think that's a super weird thing to put in this magazine. That he was
What?
it's just not relevant information, I don't think, for the target audience of this magazine.
Right. I don't think you're picking up somebody here. Like,
yeah, this is not the place to pitch that fucking marketing thing. But so then the last one is the Cardinals perennial all-star shortstop Ozzie Smith rather, sorry, who is totally justified. Pierre, he's easily the most accomplished of these three players for sure. He was fucking all world for a long time. So that was pretty interesting. Those fucking three like random ass, like kind of semi-real, like they're not. These are not three players that you see endorsing anything else anywhere else. I feel like, you know what I mean? At least in the video game realm, I'm sure they had other endorsements, but
just for sure. I was immediately like, are there special games with their names on them? Like,
that's the thing too.
Basketball somewhere that I've missed. Like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they don't have like Pete Rose is your baseball guy. Basketball, I don't know. And football doesn't have one either. Yeah, like, I don't know. That's weird to me. I didn't even think of that they don't actually have games. So what do you mean they're endorsing? They're just guys
just pay to like, here, play some Atari. We'll give you 50,000 or whatever. You know?
Right. So next up, they interview Nolan Bushnell. They call him the father of video games here, and that's quite the moniker to assign yourself in your own company, Ragmag.
That's what I'm saying. Going hard with the propaganda.
Yeah. So if you know about the timeline of Bushnell and Atari, this is a pretty interesting time to hear from him and to be doing an interview with him, as at this point he was ousted from Atari years prior to this, and then went and did his own thing for a while, and they brought him back after I think Warner had acquired Atari, if I remember correctly, and because it was going poorly, they tried to lure Bushnell back with a big fucking payday to have him come save the company, essentially. And I think that's right where we're at here, you know. So
okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting time to be talking to him, because I mean, you know, it was like in all my, you know, it's all just historical accounts from you know, people's perspectives, so take it with a grain of salt. But like the perception, the widespread perception, to my understanding, is that he left in a pretty, like, it was pretty messy on his way out the first time. It was a pretty bad blood situation. So the fact that things got bad enough to bring him back, you know, that conversation had to probably be pretty funny, you know, and they probably had to overpay him substantially to get him to do it. So, you know, it's pretty funny. So I think the thing that most caught my eye from this was his mention of networking being a thing he was excited about. And like the way he puts it is, you're not going to find two game systems in one place unless you're a psychopath like Jay and Courtney here. But putting two players in conflict against one another is one of the best parts of gaming. So, you know, like, correct, dude. And then there was Fortnite. So like the fact that he had, like, that was the thing. You know, we've had these interviews before. There was an interview in GamePro a while back, I remember, where they were interviewing like the CEOs of, if you recall this, like the CEOs of Acclaim and the CEOs of Data East. They were all talking about what the things that they saw as being the big deal of tomorrow, and like most of them were like fucking way off, you know. So the fact that he had this to talk about at a time when it wasn't even, to say it was in its infancy of a possibility technology wise is an understatement, you know what I mean? So pretty forward thinking by him, you know.
He specifically mentioned modems to play online before there was an online, you know what I mean? Like,
before anyone would know what a modem was. I mean, clearly they work in technology. He knows what a modem is. But like, reading this as a consumer at home, you're like, modem, what the fuck is that? Yeah.
And my brother worked at CompuServe. So we had like I had a computer with dial-up, but I still don't even remember that until like 90 or 91. So this is even pre that for me. So what are you talking about? You know, but he knew. You know,
fucking space. You're talking about space technology.
Man, but you know what's crazy? I'm looking at this and I'm like, on the first page of this interview, I'm reading his list of games that they're working on. I've never heard of any of them. Like, well, that doesn't mean they were never released. It just means that I, at the very least, had moved on from Atari.
Yeah, you know, they did. again, I didn't do the research to know exactly like when they really hit the shitter. I mean, I think Atari didn't go under or anything, but like their effort to really support the 7800 and keep pushing it as a new system doesn't last far beyond where we're at here in mid '89.
No.
They just they a lot of things that they had in the works probably right now never even happened, and all this magazine. I mean, I think there's only 4 issues, so they're selling subscriptions to a 6-issue bi-monthly annual subscription of a magazine that didn't even make it the full year. So, work
Not
backwards.
surprising.
Yeah, work
Not
backwards from
surprised.
that as far as how things went from Atari from here.
I mean, think about it. You're not getting a year, but like a year later, Mario 3 had come out and it's over. Like Mario 3, when that hit, arguably the greatest game of all time. Like Nintendo takes the market and it's done. Like it's done. Like Atari tried to come back later with the Jaguar.
Atari wasn't even. I don't think I mean, yes, they are pitting themselves against Nintendo in this magazine, but realistically, by marketplace performance, they're not even a competitor. Like Sega is the closest competitor, and even Sega isn't competing with Nintendo yet. So they're just starting to with the Genesis is just petering. Genesis comes out actually in August, so this is pre-Genesis. So yeah, Sega is not even fucking competing either. Like Nintendo has the market absolutely cornered. So to even like talk, for them to even utter the words that allude to competition with Nintendo is.
But
it's more delusional than Dylan in that first fucking letter.
Right? That's what it is. I mean, they're talking about like if you add in the Atari XE and whatever, it's the most consoles ever sold and all this and that. Like they're definitely like even this whole. I mean, clearly this is pushing like they have this view of themselves and they're still relevant and this and that. But it's like the market is moving on and y'all need to.
Well, I mean, dude. Yeah. Okay. So you just like on that topic. So like the second half of the second page of Nolan's interview here it's a feature on what they call Nolan's first new game for the 2600. So Nolan Bushnell comes back to save the company. His first project, and I understand he probably wrote this game in his spare time while working for the other company. I'm not suggesting that he came back and started development on this thing as like I got the idea that's gonna save things is this new 2600 game I got, right? So like but either way, it doesn't matter. He comes back and the first big thing that he wants to put his name on as the CEO is a game for their system from 1977. Not the new hardware. And that's just, oh my God, it's so bad. It's such bad management. It's such bad marketing. It's such bad business practice, top to bottom.
How was that decision made? Like, did they come back and say, okay, there are was it very methodical and very accounting-ish where they said, okay, we have 45 million worldwide units lifetime sales of 2600 and we have 10 million lifetime sales of 7800, make a 2600 game. Like was it that blinded of thinking that we can maybe get more and they just thought like
and probably I'm sure like we said, the coaxing of Nolan back had to be incredibly lopsided negotiating because of where Atari was, how bad off they were, how jaded Nolan would have been. So there is little doubt in my mind that the parameters of him coming back gave him full autonomy in decision making. And the 2600 was what he knew and what he cut his teeth on and what made him successful and what made the company successful. So like, this is at a time when video games weren't perceived as this ever evolving thing that they are now. To them, this was just another widget, and even for him, as forward thinking as he was, and he may have had an eye towards that stuff, the modem, whatever it might be, but I don't care how forward thinking he was, he did not have, there's no way to perceive the develop, and this is just, it's not just after the crash, but it's recent, like the people who were part of the crash in the Atari seats still probably feel very close to the video game crash because it fucking ruined so much of their lives. It's probably, even though it's 5 years down the line from it, it's still fucking probably very fresh in their mind. So like to them, it's just not what we perceive video gaming to be. So like to them, yeah, like it's all just, they're all just one big product to me. It's all just video games. And like, what's the video game thing with the most profitability potential? The one that has the most saturation of tools necessary to exploit the new product. It makes it's completely fucking wrong in hindsight, but at the time that was probably like, yeah.
It's just sad because I look at this and I see the screenshot and I'm immediately one.
Oh, dude, I know this. I because it's so prominently thing. It's Nolan Bushnell's new game out, so I was like, I'm playing this for sure. 2600. I never heard of it. I never played it, so I downloaded it. And dude, it's pretty fucking good for a 2600 game for sure. It's a space set adventure game with some survival elements to it. And I'm playing Subnautica too, so I'm especially like, so you have life and oxygen meters to tend to in this game, like all ever decreasing. The life you have to get hit for shit, but the oxygen meter is ever decreasing. So yeah, you're going around, you're trying to find the resources to keep yourself alive, and you get a sword early on, and the hit detection for the sword use, which in Atari 2600 games is usually awful, is actually pretty fucking good with the enemy sprites and shit. The music was good. For a 2600 game, pretty fucking good, but that does not discount all the things we said, but I don't know.
Are you saying you're adding it to our games worth playing list? Oh,
maybe. No, our games worth playing list. No, I thought you were saying our game discussion at the end, which we're not going to do a game episode after this, but I think we should still have a game. Like we should proceed as such as if we were. So it may be a game in that conversation, Jay.
Gotcha.
Maybe that. So yeah, not too shabby, father of video games. That is Donkey Kong Jr.'s title theme for the 7800, and I never played the 7800 version, but the 2600 version was a card I had, and it's fucking dope. It was one of the better games on the system for sure.
Nice. The 7800, same level of fun, better graphics.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if it's this section or not. I think it's a little later on for something. I think the tips and tricks or something maybe. But I saw the screenshot and I was like, "Damn, that looks good, man."
I had to pull it up and verify. I was like, "Yes, this is the good one. Yeah, that's quality 7800."
Yeah. So the section that we are in here is the reviews, and the games we have here, the ones mentioned on the cover that I've never fucking heard of: Tower Toppler, Summer Games, Crime Buster, Karate.
I say Karateka. Yeah,
that makes total sense. Impossible Mission, Double Dunk, Fight Night, Water Ski, Super Baseball, and the only one of these that jumped out to me at all was Fight Night, which the graphics looked kind of fun and semi-solid on, and I was curious if you would ever rock that by chance.
It looked super familiar to me, and I know, and that's how another reason I know I had this magazine, because I remember these exact like screenshots, and I'm like, oh, I remember all of this. But yeah, I saw the freaking Fight Night too, and I was like, oh, I remember this game. But then I was playing it and I was like, what is going on here? Like, it was just like, I don't know if I need to look up the actual manual and like thoroughly sit, because I'm like, okay, I'm messing around. I know I can punch here, but like the dude was still blocking every punch of mine. And I was like, this is not fun. It just was not. Yeah.
It had it gave them, I wasn't getting the 7000 emulator to try these things, but it had the piece had the vibe that there were like characters. Like I guess that there was like an aspect of it that reminded me of Mike Tyson's Punch Out to some degree. That like it had like, it wasn't just stock no face boxers. They had like personality of some kind, or they tried to give them some anyways, and that kind of spoke to me a little bit. That's what was really intriguing about it. So
they definitely have separate, personality, so to speak, different movements. But I feel like this is something also that I either, again, tried as a kid and just hated it also, or just saw it in the magazine and never played it. Because when I was playing it, I was like, the art and everything looks familiar. This game doesn't feel familiar. It's not fun. Like, that was I feel like there was a fun boxing game I played, and it was not this.
Fair. Well, yeah, that was the only one that said anything to me. Talk to me about here was not a pile of shit.
Oh man, so it was not a pile of shit. So that would be Karate.
Karate
But
Kid,
the other
yeah.
was I like zero interest in. But like this is a game. I don't know if you played it. I've played it on the PC before, like with the keyboard and everything, keyboard and mouse, like to move around. It's freaking hard. I played it on the 7800. Again, it's a fun game, but it's like,
It's kung fu. It's like the side,
yeah,
perfect side view, and just the guys running. Yeah, I assume. Yeah, right.
yeah. But there's like a dude who can like throw a hawk at you, and like it's just, I don't know, man. It's like it's a freaking hard game. Like you've never,
Yeah.
I've never come close to beating it. I've definitely made it to several levels, but like it's a 2D kind of fight. You have every time you approach a bad guy, you each have like a meter, a bunch of triangles that you have
So
to.
it's like an individual battle by battle thing. Okay, that's kind of
Yeah,
interesting.
you gotta go like you're still in stages though, so you gotta walk forward and like dot fight the bird that comes at you and find the next guy to fight. But every time you fight a guy, there's like a health meter.
It's an arena
So it's
thing.
like,
That's kind of
yeah, but
interesting.
it's fun, but it's freaking hard. It's just fun but hard. Yeah, definitely remember that one. But the other is like Impossible Mission was always just a knockoff. Like I'm like, okay, this is Mission Impossible. They can't get the brand, so that's what, but it wasn't really fun. Super Baseball, as basic of a game as that is, actually it's a fun game. Like I remember having this on a 2600 and super basic again, but like there's just something about, again, at the time I was still into baseball, still watching the Reds play and going to see Columbus Clippers games and stuff, and just like being able to accurately throw and catch this ball on the screen, like
Sure.
it was fun for the
Yeah,
time.
well, I mean, these are I think these are the last swings at sports titles on the for lack of a better fucking analogy. The no pun intended, I guess maybe is the proper terminology to get out of that. But anyways, these are the last tries at sports, so they're probably the best ones. Like I never played this one, but I mean that the original baseball was terrible on the I shouldn't say the original, the real sports one. I don't think I ever played
It
an
was not.
original baseball, So yeah, I mean it's probably the best one. I didn't try this one, but I believe it's the best available to you.
Yeah, the thought of playing summer games like with a control with a joystick, just no thanks. I don't know. Just never tried it. Never had any desire to even try that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, fucking Olympic sports. Bah. Anyway, so I wouldn't even fucking think to fucking be into that or try it. Water ski kind of sounds like a semi-fun setting for a video game and a not overly done one. So I'm kind of intrigued by that, but again, not enough. That's 7,800, right? 700.
Yep, definitely
Yeah.
7,800.
Yeah, I was not getting the 700 emulator for this purpose.
To that note, I will have to say, man, using RetroArch was so simple because like normally I use Launchbox, which is like the front end, but like on the back end, I'm still using Fusion for Sega and RetroArch for Nintendo. But like I just used RetroArch by itself, and I just searched for a 7800 core, loaded it, boom, drag and drop 700 games, and then I was like, let me try. I thought 2600 would be more difficult, but I did the same thing. I just like searched for it, dropped it in, boom, like
I should have got
so
that.
easy.
Said, yeah,
So easy.
I use Z26, and it's definitely not playing 7,800 game. Well, you know what? I guess I don't know that, but it's called Z. It's called Z26. It's got to be 2,600 games only, or it wouldn't be called that. So, but
I was
yes,
thoroughly
it
impressed that I could play both.
word. I guess maybe I should have got that. So at the end of this, we have an XE video game system. This is kind of where I want to get in and talk more about that stuff. So yeah, I mean it's essentially a rebrand of their 8-bit line of computers that had been around for quite some time and done pretty popular. So yeah, it has a keyboard. You can buy a disk drive. There's a modem and a printer you can get. So I mean, yeah, it's a fucking computer. It just has a colorful box that they're calling a console. And the thing I thought sounded the coolest in this fucking rundown here is that it had a basic programming language editor built into the onboard ROM of the system. So you could program your own shit on it if you took the time to teach yourself basic programming. And dude, I was fucking into that as a like I had the basic, it's called just basic programming is the name of it. It's an Atari cart. And I had that cart my whole childhood, but I didn't have the keyboard controller to really engage it with. So like I would, I mean, it's weird that like I don't know, like I didn't have anyone in my life who was that technologically savvy, or like, so it wasn't like I was trying to emulate some parental figure in my life or anything. No one had, my uncle didn't get a computer till later, and this was before he and I were really close anyways. Like, I don't know where it came from, man, but I was fucking like, computers fascinated the fuck out of me, man. And I so badly wanted to be able to program my own shit, like computer programming, hacking into the mainframe, man. It was probably that's probably what it was. It was probably hacking into the fucking mainframe in movies. It's probably like, I want to hack into the fucking mainframe.
All the time.
That's all I want. All I want to do in life is hack into the mainframe. So yeah, man. So yeah, like, so I would turn that basic cartridge on without even having the controller, just the fucking joystick, and you can't do anything. There was something you could move the cursor, like there was something you could do with it, like you could create input, but you couldn't actually program the way. And it's in hindsight, having tried it and watched videos and stuff, it's like what you can do basic programming wise on that cartridge, as you would imagine, is incredibly basic. So that was never really an outlet for it. But later on, I want to say it was early in Jab and I's tenure together, after I'd moved back in with my dad, and he was in the picture. He got like someone, I don't know, it came from somewhere in his family or something. He brought it home from like, he went to his dad's on one weekend and then came home with it. And he was way too young to even be kind of interested in it, but he brought it home anyways. And it was this little basic programming computer system that had like a little suitcase. And I wish I could remember the brand name of it. I can't. He actually when I was back home one time recently, he still had it. He has it in his closet somewhere. So I should fucking ask him to send pictures and shit. But so yeah, he had this thing. So it was like a little keyboard with rubber buttons on it, like a full QWERTY keyboard, and you plug that into your TV, and there was a standard cassette tape deck accessory to it that you could save your programs onto actual blank cassette tapes. That was like the storage medium for it. So, and it came with all these books that taught you how to do it. So, dude, I'm like 11 years old, sitting in my bedroom on the floor with this thing plugged in, looking at these books, teaching myself basic programming, and fucking got, savvy enough with it where like I remember I used one of the templates to build a parachuting game where you like a little thing would fly across the top of the screen, your little thing dropped out of it, and you were trying to land your little parachuter on these targets that were worth certain scores, So like, and there were like hills and shit that were obstructions that you had to navigate to get to the targets and stuff. So, not a totally not complex video game. And like I said, it was from a template. It's not like I like sat and cooked that up on my own or anything, but just having that ability to do that. There were some things that I fucked around with and a few other programs that probably also came from templates in the books or something. But, just being able to program something and then save it on the tape and then turn the thing off and turn the thing back on another day and load that up and play it, was like, oh my God, dude. It's like, because I did not have a computer and I wanted one so bad. Like the ability to do that, have access to that, and like teach myself that was fucking just unbelievable fucking experience. That was so fucking dope, man. And yeah, like
nice.
I wish, to this day, I still wish. I mean, we've talked about it, joked around about it, shit. Like I've downloaded that NES Maker, that front end UI to program NES games and stuff. I would love, and that stuck with it. I mean, I was into HTML programming in high school and stuff. That's infinitely more basic than any sort of shit you would use to really program video games. But I was always into it and wanted to do it. But like, I remember getting actually some sort of visual C++ programming tutorial or some fucking something to try to learn it with, a programming environment, and like I just, nope, don't understand this. No book is teaching me. The internet's not savvy enough now to teach you anything anyway. It's just not happening, and that was pretty much like, yeah, so like mid to late high school was probably the last time that I really took any real effort to get into that. But yeah, I wish I could have stuck with it or would have stuck with it and had the wherewithal for the tedium of programming, because I know for a fact like that's something I was sitting in a room alone and like creating your own thing is something that I would love to have the power and the ability to do. But
I was gonna say, man, that sounds like you. I mean, that's what Zion is into completely. We just got her a gaming computer for her birthday, and though she's been into coding for a while now. So like every time I boot on any kind of game, she's like, "Oh, is that using Unreal Engine?" Like she has her own Unreal Engine thing. She can code and like create games now. Like she loves it.
That's
Loves
fucking
it,
awesome.
and there's like the resources available, of course, to her now.
Yeah, there's no such thing as not knowing something, man. Yeah, it's yeah, and that's like I don't even like that's to me. I'm so far removed. Like I don't even have like I mean I've started to pick up traits. Like it sounds like those Unity and Unreal Engines and stuff sound from the basic information I've gleaned about them sound way more turnkey than I would have thought. Like it's like drag and drop kind of chimpanzee level fucking input required to build in those things. And sure, I mean, I imagine the nuances are insane to create things that are good in them, but
and differentiate it. Yeah,
right, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, like the basic tools to get started and get some traction and just fucking feel like you're not just ramming your head into a wall right at the beginning sound not too bad, So like I'm half tempted to get a hair at my ass as if I have fucking a bunch of free time or anything, and that's good. Got to finish Subnautica first at least. So I don't know. I probably never have it, but yeah, it's something. Yeah, I just wish I had the time and the wherewithal, whatever, because I think it's something that if I could get the traction and get a basic understanding and get the foundation in place, I think it's something I would fucking really be into. But it's too much. Old dog, new tricks. So anyhow, my cousin, what's up?
I was just gonna say we'll send you Zion's first game. You can try it out, and then
okay, word, yeah, no, dude, fucking yeah. If she programs something, fucking post it on the thing, dude. Get user feedback. That's how you do it. Just like Subnautica, get user feedback, develop it.
So excited every day, like some new thing about it. Just it's crazy. I almost feel like I'm at work sometimes hearing a developer talk, but obviously she's,
that's fucking awesome. I can't, that's all fucking conjecture. But I can't think of a skill set to be developing right now that has more potential application in tomorrow than that, So fuck yeah, fucking she's into it. Fucking push that to the fucking moon. Anyhow, my cousin Tracy had one of these fucking things, like I mentioned, these Atari XEs, and all I remember about it is that barnyard shooting game with the zapper I've talked about on here before. I won't shut the fuck up about, the barnyard shooting thing. And there's actually, it's in, I think the tips and tricks, maybe there's a screenshot of it and it mentions it. So yeah, that's the only real thing. I mean, I'm sure they had other games, but that's the thing that really stands out. In fact, this flying game here, it might have been the pack-in or something, because that looks kind of familiar to me. That interface, the dashboard there looks like something I've seen before, but that's also kind of how every flying game looks. So maybe
I think that's Flight Simulator too, so that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
For it to look like that. But yeah, this is like, it looked like, as soon as you see this visual, I just immediately think Nintendo because of the zapper, but also computer. And it's funny to me as I read this, like thinking about how Atari must have felt in the position they're in. We talk about, they were probably, the best-selling market leader even through the video game crash. But now Atari, like Nintendo's eating their lunch. But at the same time, for them to sit here and say, we've had 8-bit computers, been around for almost a decade, they're probably like, wait a minute, Nintendo is 8-bit. We got 8-bit. We've been had 8-bit.
It's like just the words. Yeah, just like 8-bit, 8-bit. Like, what is the same shit? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Again, just they're a technology company, so you can't say that they're fucking stupid. But like, there's like, and just an oblivious aspect to everything about their function, and it's not hard to connect the dots on Nolan Bushnell walking away, Time Warner, this big corporation acquiring them, and this, again, just not knowing what they're buying. They just, it's profitable. They're buying the balance sheet. They're not even buying. They have no one at Time Warner, not a fucking soul, even knows what an Atari is, I bet. There's terrible, like, man. Yep. And they fucking just have no idea how to run a company like that at this time. And of course, ran into the fucking ground like every other fucking Corporate America fucking thing. Yeah, I mean, I was gonna ask you if you fucking fuck one of these, but I think you kind of already said no. So
Never
moving
did.
on. Moving on. They also are asking at the bottom of this. They are asking kids to name their stock superhero mascot here. So trying to, just like Nintendo, not different there, trying to get fucking the readers to do some labor for them. The best these marketing wonderkins here with Atari could come up with was Atari Ace and Commander Atari.
Wow.
Absolutely
Good
pathetic.
job, team.
Yeah, fucking way to go. Just like we talked about, what was that thing I fucking was pissing myself laughing about the different words, like you could put those 4 words in any order in the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just pissing my fucking. It's the exact same thing, same concept to me.
Oh.
But you win if they pick your choice, you win $25 and a free game of your choice if they pick your shit. So I mean that different than the earlier thing, how I pointed out that they're probably choosing that. Here you get to choose, so they're at least giving you that freedom. So that's, whoever won this as a kid, $25 and a free game of your choice, probably pretty fucking hot little prize, even if they are still exploiting you. So. What are you going to do after these messages?
We'll be right back.
What do you want? What do you think? What do you want? I want the latest games anywhere. What do you want? I want the sounds that curl my hair. What do you want? 7800s everywhere. What do you want? I want Atari. I do. What do you want? I want Atari. What do you want? Atari 7800.
Atari is the name of the game, dudes. Check it out at these rad stores.
That is a 1990 Atari 7800 commercial, like for the system there, and it's rad.
High octane rad. Let's go. Cool stuff.
And the strategy section kicks off here, where they do deep dives on, you guessed it, game strategies. A feature on XE title Necromancer opens us up here, and the name and art imply fantasy RPG, so I'm listening. And I kind of suppose it is, but it definitely has a unique twist going on with it, doing a little research about it. It's you play a sorcerer that goes by Illuminar, seeking to destroy an evil necromancer called Tetragorn, and your chief offensive angle is a incredibly eco-friendly one, planting trees and protecting them from the necromancer's minions. So like, yeah, it's like a very, I don't know, like eco-conscious sorcerer thing, which is, I don't know, different. So that's kind of fun. And then we have Donkey Kong Jr. next, and it doesn't specify in the piece, but like I said, I'm guessing this is the 7800 port because I had the 2600 version, and it's fucking great, but it didn't look anywhere near this slick.
That is
anywhere near
100% the 7800 port, because I tried that and I was like, yep, this is definitely for sure that one. This is such a fun game. You know what I hate about this game? I hate that you have to climb down every rope. You can't just kind of go off the edge and think there's a platform right beneath you. You're going to land.
Yeah,
no, you're going to die.
You'll fall to
I
your,
forget that every
death.
time I play this game. Like, but it's a fun game.
Yep. Yeah. The one, and assuming that it has the same stage flow as the 2600 version, the stage where the blue one where you have to push the keys up between the 2 ropes to the top. Something about the mechanic of that was so satisfying, because like the gators come down and you have to like move over to the one side until they pass, and then and like, yeah, that was a really fun little thing. I think like the first stage of that is probably although it looks cool, probably the weakest of the actual fun to them, like having to jump across the platforms and run up, and the fucking things are coming down the vines and shit. Like the latter stages of that game are really fun, really cool. Yeah, my swing. So my swing at the canonically accurate Donkey Kong Country series inspired story for this game is that you are Donkey Kong in his formative years, trying to save Cranky Kong from the clutches of evil Mario. Like, that's what I believe I've read is the actual, like, that is me retrofitting how they describe the story of Donkey Kong Country. You know what I mean? And if you put that in this timeline here, I think that's what it would be. So that's kind of fun if you think about it like that.
Okay, I like that. That. Adds a nice little twist to it. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, great fucking game. And then Desert Falcon, that's the name we couldn't think earlier of the flying Egyptian one. And Yeah, this is the first time I can say in this mag app where I can say we've seen and talked about this already. so we can just move right on. Yeah, like I said, I'm pretty sure it was the first issue of Game Pro that had a piece on that, and we started doing our first quasi segment, Jay's Atari Corner. So we get a half-page ad for Froggo Games Corporation next, and this is a black and white ditty titled "Big Game Hunters," and they have 2,600 games and 1,700 games, and the 2,600 ones are going for 15 to 17 bucks, and the 1,700 games for 30. And remember earlier I said I'm lowballing by $30 my MSRP. I guess that is the actual MSRP.
It was definitely game specific. I remember games like California Games when that came out being like 30 or 35 versus like getting a different game for like 15. So yeah, for sure. But it's so brand confusion though right now. Even looking at this, like they're still talking about the 2600, 7800 when they supposedly have this 8-bit machine, the XE. Like what's the like? Come on, people.
This is a third party that are super unlicensed. If you look at these, again, it's not this thing we created is now a thing. Like these are incredibly generic names. Seahawk, Task Force, Sea Hunt, Cruise Missile, Karate, Water Ski. Like they're not names, they're just fucking nouns. These are definitely not Atari licensed games. These are the fact that they're selling these for $30 is a fucking joke if you think about it. If you can get actual Atari licensed games for anywhere near this price point, these are probably these are the games that created the game crash. These are the companies in the games that caused that. Is these these dog shit games that parents got home and the kids lost their minds like, what the fuck is this shit?
Karate. This is not Karate Ka. This is not Kung Fu. This is just this is different from all of those.
Yep. So the bottom half of this page is another contest, and I gotta admit, man, this is fucking amazing, and I love this. Did you actually read this closely?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the only way it's too complex, I just got to read it. So the editors of Atarian care about video games, and as you know, contests involving video games are an ongoing part of our editorial package. So this is one. I never heard that term before, editorial package. I like that as a phrase. But we also care about the English language and the way it is being used and misused by Americans today. We work hard to present the reviews, articles, playing strategies, and other editorial components of the magazine in clear, correct, and stylistically pleasing English, which we think enhances your enjoyment of the content. But occasionally, even editors slip up. To keep us on our toes and to make our young readers aware that there are correct and incorrect ways to use language, we offer an ongoing contest. The challenge is to find examples of incorrect grammar or sloppy style in Atarian. So they ask you to copy the sentence being accused. Like as a kid, you write it down, and then you identify the shortcoming within that sentence, a misplaced modifier, run-on sentence, et cetera, then rewrite it better without changing the meaning, and then you mail that into the magazine. And the winner each issue will be qualitatively and subjectively chosen as the one deemed most embarrassing to the editorial team, by the editorial team. So, and they point out that simple typos don't count, though they admit they too are embarrassing, that they're talking about actual grammatical shortcomings here. So, yeah, I mean, the prize is described as an Atari game package and being highlighted and praised in the magazine itself, and it's under 18 only, thankfully. And they say they may force you to prove your age. I don't know how you prove that you're not 18, but whatever. I guess a birth certificate, maybe, if it actually came to that. But I don't know. That's aside the point. This is absolutely fucking awesome. It's smart. It's challenging. It's rewarding for kids. I fucking love it. Like, high five, Atari. This is the best reader interaction thing that we have seen in any magazine that we have looked at yet. Any one of them. I might even say cumulatively. Wow. Like, I think this is so smart and so fun and so beneficial. Like, that is an actual high thought requirement teaching tool built into a magazine and incentivized in a way that is going to make the readers absolutely 1000% engage it enthusiastically. You know what I mean? Like, it's just such a good fucking idea. It's so good.
I mean, it makes sense. It says an unusual contest, so I get it. Read thoroughly. Right. Prove your case. It's like, okay, let's go. Let me get out my pencil and paper.
Yeah, it's teaching you so many things. Like, yeah, like, you know, like, yes, the like having to like just the organization required of it. You know, like the idea of like, okay, I find this thing, and I have to go get a piece. Like, think, you know, from a kid's perspective too. Clearly, even as an adult, some adults can't do this probably. like you find this thing, you're like, that's not right. I don't think that's right. I think I have a better idea for it. I have a reason to take the time to do it. They have to go and get a piece of paper. They have to write this fucking down. They have to copy it correctly. They have to point out the thing. They have to look up probably what the thing is called, the
Like,
shortcoming.
what is this called? Yeah.
You have to learn the shortcoming and learn about it, and then you're going to learn the parameters of it. So you have to explain why that parameter is not being met by this shortcoming. This is like the thing of the it's just fucking, it's so smart. It's such a good idea, and a
You
great
gotta
fucking,
go find a stamp or buy a stamp.
mail it shit. Yeah, it's the whole thing. Yeah. Whole fucking life experience for sure. You know. So yeah, that's fucking awesome, man. A really cool idea. So I loved that. And then we get into tips and tricks. And as I mentioned, that Barnyard Blaster XE Light Zapper game I keep babbling about is here. And really the only thing I have to say about this, did any of these, I mean, you actually, so these are more games you played. Like, did any of these jump out to you as something you're like, oh yeah, that's a fucking thing. Either I wish I knew, or I did learn,
Well,
maybe this magazine and was like, oh fuck.
Nah, not really. I mean, I looked at the Choplifter one because I love Choplifter, and that's like something I definitely did, like where you capture the hostage. What, not capture, once you rescue the hostages, because there's always going to be tanks trying to shoot at you to prevent you from taking these hostages to safety. Like if you just fly backwards, you can still shoot if they come out, you know, they can come at you. So that's definitely something I did, but you learn it kind of naturally, you know what I mean?
I kind of felt that way with a few of them. They seem kind of like things like, yeah, that's just like shit, that's like nuance of gameplay. That's not a tip. That's just like part of learning how to play the game. You know?
Exactly. Exactly.
The complexity of these games is so not so that, you know, you're not going to get a fucking password tip or something here, you know. So
even with Karateka, I mean, it was kind of the same thing. It's like, hey, if you run, you encounter less enemies. Like, yeah, that's part of it. Like if you walk, there's more dudes. That's
right, exactly.
You learn that. So
yep. So the second page is shared with an ad for another video game store in Fresno, California that is headlined by 5200 Games, the system that is completely obsolete and not being supported by Atari at all in this mag. So fucking marketing team at that store on fucking point there. Unless, you know, I guess didn't think of it. Flip side of that idea is if it's so passe that it is now essentially, you wouldn't call it retro yet because you didn't have retro as a concept for video games, but if it's so far removed from being available that you are the specialist in that thing, and then people reading this magazine could potentially have 5200 and wants 5200 games. So you know what, as I work through this, as I logically deduce my incorrect opinion here, I think maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it actually was a boon for them if they are the sole source for this, for 5200 games. You know, then maybe this is the perfect place to be advertising those products.
I'm looking at this and I think I remember, if I remember correctly, the 5200 had cartridges that were bigger, so you couldn't play backwards compatible 2600 like you could with 78. So it was kind of like, why did you do this? So it immediately like fell out of favor, or if it had any favor.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure they're like
big.
They were bigger and they had like a ribbed texture to the plastic molding. Yeah, for sure. So then we get our comic that I guess they feel every magazine must have, and it's called Adventures of Atari. And it's featuring their yet-to-be-named mascot, at least so they've said. And this is so fucking insanely salty of Atari, this comic strip, dude. The story starts in an Atari game factory. They lose control of their computers because an alien ship is above the factory trying to introduce a virus into their system that will force their customers to buy from the aliens, right? That's like, so it's already like a commercialized narrative now, which is fucking stupid. And then one of the employees in the factory turns out to be a superhero, of course, and he runs to a fucking phone booth in a shameless bite off Superman before introducing himself as Atari. So he does have a name. They're calling him Atari in the strip. He's not unnamed. So
right, what is that?
Right. And then we find out late in the comic strip that the alien leader is named Ninja Endo.
Yes.
So if you were too dense to read between the lines here, Atari is saying Nintendo is nefariously stealing their customers. That's essentially, if you read between the lines here, what this comic strip is about. And holy fuck, is that a salty ass choice by them?
I fully 100% remember this and reading this and being like, whoa, they just called out Nintendo's the enemy. I'm with the good guys. I'm with Atari. Nintendo's the bad guy. Ninja Indo.
But it's like fucking the 1989 child version of when like all moron ass NBA players, like something happens on the court and everyone on the fucking bench is just like, like fucking. Yeah, you don't need to be that excited about this, dick. But you're part of the team, so you do.
Oh man, it's so funny. I just remember that as a kid being like, damn, they could just do that. Okay, all right. Clearly they're talking about Nintendo.
Yeah, it's fucking great, man. It's so salty though. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, anything else? Anything I didn't hit on in that comic that you?
No, that's it. That's highlight. Ninja Indo. There you go.
So we move on from that to some brain teasers and word finds and a page of puzzles, and then we get a full page ad to subscribe to this baby for $15, and you get 6 issues annually that I don't believe ever ended up getting delivered, and then a full pager for Activision did the port of both the 2600 and the 78 versions of Rampage, and I love this ad. With it's pretty close to the one the Sega box used too, and I think closer to the arcade version than the NES box art, if I recall correctly. But pretty cool and fun art, and this pretty much closes out this action-packed inaugural issue of Atarian.
That was from Pac-Man Jr. on the Atari 7800. A definite favorite of mine. Very solid game.
I don't believe I've ever played Junior. Ever, period. Like, I played Miss Pac-Man. I played Pac-Man, right, of course. I don't believe I've ever played Pac-Man Junior though. What's the actual gameplay?
It's fun, man. It's like the screens are much bigger. Like, I know there were some different things you could get as well, and like there were differentiated screens. How it was like the original Pac-Man on Atari was just the one thing over and over. You know what I mean? But like Pac Junior had different screens. There was something different you could do that I'm forgetting because I didn't play it for the episode. But it was just like had different sounds, different music, different. Yeah, there was just a lot more to it. So it was fun. Okay. Yeah, I think you had some power-ups or something, but I don't remember the details.
Pac-Man's okay. It's done all right historically, I suppose. So I guess so now we're going to talk about nominations for a game episode that we're not going to do. So not that, everything we do this podcast is kind of we're just fucking around here. None of it's serious. So who cares? Let's just talk about what are the games that we want to talk about, I guess, from this issue. I think I had to go first, and that's what led us to Heavy Barrel. So let's avoid that kind of outcome of this and have you go first here.
I would say first would be Commando. I mean, it's just a blast of a game. Like I said, I played it over and over again. Quality graphics for a 7800 type of port, but just like fun gameplay. Like there were secrets to find. You could blast holes in walls that like you just didn't know there were things there, and you get to go to special areas. So just really well done. A lot. And again,
that we have determined it's the exact same Commando as that's the NES one. Okay. Yeah. I don't think I knew that there were secrets in that game.
Because it's just like the idea of blowing up these walls when you have grenades. Like if you blew up certain walls, you could go like get. I don't remember what those secrets were off the top of my head, but I just remember playing those shit out of that game.
Probably more grenades. But whatever, it's still fun.
So probably that one, and then still I gotta say probably Double Dragon on the 7800. Like it was still so well done because on the 7800 you had the 2 buttons, so you could punch and kick and you could jump.
That's clutch for sure.
Yeah, so I can't even imagine trying on the 2600. It blows my mind that you even attempted that. But yeah, like on the 7800, even like once you got on, like the music was good. The colors, the quality, for an Atari game, very well done, within the capabilities of that. So that would be solid. And then I would probably have to go with Choplifter, man. Choplifter Such a solid game. It's a game that I played with my mom all the time. You know, just it's one of those games which I would add to our games we're playing list. Like if people haven't played it, because I forget that some of the like with the graphical limitations of the Atari, it's still done in a way sometimes on a game like Choplifter where it almost looks 3D, where you're flying and like the sprites in the back, like the mountains in the back, move slower than like the mountains
Yeah,
up close. So it gives you that.
parallax, yeah, parallax,
Yeah, so it's when I picked it up, I was like, wow, this still looks cool. Like I know it's Choplifter, but this is still cool, and it's still fun to try to save all the hostages and get them back without getting blown up or accidentally landing on them and stuff like that. Like it's still a fun mechanic to do. So yeah, Choplifter, definitely for sure.
Word. Every time I hear that game name, I don't think of her. I don't know. I think maybe actually it was on SMS and we played that super early on the SMS timeline. And so I did play it then. So I think I vaguely remember a chopper game where you actually had to rescue hostages. Because what I think of every time I hear that name, I think of Chopper Command, which is an Activision title on 2600. That is probably my second favorite behind River Raid Atari 2600 game. It's fucking fantastic. And that's essentially what Heavy Barrel is to Jackal.
Got it. Okay.
In that Chopper Command to this Choplifter, I mean, or Choplifter, right?
Choplifter, yeah.
Choplifter, yeah. In that all you do in Chopper Command, you're just seek and destroy. There's both helicopters and jet planes in the sky you got to shoot, and then there are I guess actually no, maybe this is why I like it so much, come think, but I guess there is, it's not exactly the same thing, but there are trucks driving along the bottom, and if you lose, I think, points if trucks get blown up by the helicopters or the planes above. So you're trying to keep them all alive.
Right.
By clearing the skies above them, you know? So you're not saving something, but you do have an objective beyond just killing things, you know? Which, like I said, it didn't even occur to me until as I'm describing this that was involved in it, and maybe that's why I like it so much. But what I was going to say was Choplifter, has the saving hostages component that makes it a much obviously cooler and diversified gameplay experience. So yeah, I mean, I think I remember the SMS one. I think I remember I might even suggest it as a game app, come to think of it, because I believe out of what is available, especially early on SMS, it wasn't too bad. So that's the kind of game, like it's simple enough graphically that the SMS's ability, that like kind of like the processing of the SMS and the colors and stuff were so much better than the NES, but they would bog themselves down sometimes so much hardware wise with like afterburner stuff that the speed capability of the system would get negated. But Choplifter was simple enough that didn't happen, and like the speed and it was basically a good application of that system's hardware, you know what I mean, and it actually looked pretty good and played really well. So I think it was actually a pretty good game. So yeah, I kind of like that one. And out of the three you're talking about here, that would probably be the one I'd have most affinity or most willingness to give a whack at.
Yeah, I don't know how we talk about it for a long period of time.
right, exactly, right, yeah. Got the hostages. Into podcast. So my nominations would be Donkey Kong Jr. Like I said, I would love to play the 7800 version because I have so much love for the 2600 version, and it looks pretty damn dope in those pictures, those screenshots. So I would love to play that and get the heightened experience of that. That Secret Quest I would absolutely throw into this conversation because it was, it's on the 2600, and like, I don't know if we've ever talked about them before, man, but the 2600 has there's a bunch of games like that. Because this has always been in me, dude. Like, there are these games, the Sword Quest games, which I would think we've talked about it at some point or another, and maybe you have some familiarity with them. But it was a big thing Atari did marketing wise. They hired DC to make to write and make a comic for them. They did this huge contest where they gave away the like actual gold and like with diamond fucking encrusted chalice and a sword, and there was a crown, I think. and all this stuff they made as part of a fucking big contest they did, because the comic books had little clues hidden in them that you would have to use in the game. It was just like a very complex for Atari 2600 game. There was, the first one was Earthworld, I think. Then Fireworld came out, and Waterworld got to the like beta testing. What do you call that? Not promo, but what the fuck's it called? Where it's just like the beta testing of something. It's not out yet.
Stage.
Yeah, I'm fucking blank on the word.
Pre-release stage or something.
Yeah, whatever. So they worked on the development of Waterworld, the third one, but it never was released. So because of the crash basically happened, and this was like something they were dumping a bunch of money into, so this whatever. But so I had these cards as kids, and like, I even had the comic book, but even with the comic book, without like, maybe there was a manual too that I needed that I didn't have. I don't know, but I couldn't. I had Fireworld as a kid, and like, I couldn't even kind of fucking figure out. The game is just like, it is fucking so opaque, and like, just no clue what you're doing or trying to accomplish. But I was fascinated by it. And I would play it, and I would fucking sit there and just aimlessly wander and like try to figure it out, because the story world, having the accompanying comic book, and like that story world was so.
Got it. Okay.
By comparison, in the 2600 Spectrum, engrossing. You know what I mean? So, I was into those. Raiders of the Lost Ark is another one that I didn't understand how to work. I didn't have the manual, and you got to like do something on the second controller I never knew about to really do it right. But I used to walk around and pick up the whip and pick up the things and fall into the pit and fucking get eaten by the snake, and like all that shit was interesting to me because there were items, so it was like a more complex, almost RPG-esque game. E.T. everyone talks about, but I kind of like.
Oh my gosh,
items
so
and
terrible.
shit, and like, yeah, I mean, so like, I've always been into that kind of game. So this looked like an actually approachable type of game like that might have been kind of fun, again, within the confines of this fucking landscape here. And then also, I would like to have tried Pete Rose's baseball just for the novelty of it. So,
Nice.
yeah, so those would have been my three. So our game app on this won't be happening. That's our next game app, and then our next actual episode will be back to our main timeline. Although Jab and I have talked about potentially getting this last Ultima episode done before then too. But if that doesn't happen, then Game Pro 8 will be the next episode in our legit canonical ISOH timeline. And you can subscribe to the pod on the platform, provided whatever dumbass company stirs up your pottery. Please rate and leave positive shit for the pod on that podcast platform of choice, or any other for that matter. The website is nyehentertainment.com/ISOH pod. You can email us directly at isohpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the pod on Facebook. You can link to the YouTube gameplay videos playlist in the show notes. There's also the ISOH subreddit if you want to get down with us on Reddit. And we do not have a Patreon, but if you like giving money to things that podcasters tell you to, and would like to do so at our direction, the Able Gamers Foundation creates custom gaming rigs for gamers with disabilities, and that is cool as fuck. ablegamers.org is where you can find them. Jay, you have socials. What are they?
Gentleman JB without the second E. That's pretty much where you can find me. Feel free to group up with me on Outriders or Knockout City or anything like that on Xbox.
Dope. And my Twitter is @JoshFolan. My Instagram is @MyShiftKeyIsBroke. And actually, I just decided we're waiting on approval. Apparently, Instagram thinks my sign up pattern is suspect. They're doing some sussing out of my request to create an ISOH fucking Instagram. So that will be hopefully made available at some point today. I would think they said 24 hours. And I found out I can basically post to both the Facebook page and the Instagram at the same time and not actually have to log into an Instagram account. So why the fuck not? And that, if you prefer Instagram, and some people don't want to engage Facebook, but will engage Instagram as if they're not the same company. So I don't know what that's about. But if you prefer Instagram or Facebook, we're about to have a presence there, so you can check that out too. But my gamer tag is 2 Minute Todd, and that's it. Okay, bye.
Bye.